All right, we are doing this for the first time. The three of us here together in a room doing the sporting class in person.
Thank you, Meadowlark.
We did it, John.
Thank you, Pablo.
We did it.
Functioning studio.
We did it.
Wow.
But we're not live.
Thank
Well,
God.
we are live. I mean, I can look
I'm
and see.
A-live.
You can see that you. Well, no, right now we're live. We may not broadcast the results live, but we are live right now.
Keep telling yourself that.
Always close
You
to...
think we're just in a matrix?
I think that we should be able to do this live.
Okay.
I think we're always close to getting in trouble as if we were live. So that sense of danger permeates this studio where I do Pablo Torre Finds Out. Hello, I am Pablo Torre. David Samson, John Skipper. We're here. And we are gazing at the Colossus astride our country. And it used to be Deion Sanders. That was last week, 2 weeks ago. That was the answer to who is number one in the cultural power poll. And now here comes a topic in Taylor Swift that I think both of you are on some level already exasperated by, if you're like me.
I'm over it. I'm so over it. The manufactured relationship between Kelsey and Swift.
Oh, here it
watching
is.
the commercials play, finding out that it's like a press release when she's going to be at a game, as though that's a big deal, and chest bumping with his mom, and then it's too much. But the business, that's where I get brought back in. It's really good business.
Well, it's the same as the Deion Sanders matter, right? Which we talked about before. The big deal is because it's good for the broadcasters. It's good for the teams. This is good for the NFL. This is good for Travis Kelce, primarily, it seems.
No doubt.
Good for attracting more and more followers, and I'm assuming it's good for her to promote her new movie.
I mean, the incentives are clear for everybody, it seems. Travis Kelce has a podcast. Travis Kelce has a jersey. Taylor Swift has all of these businesses, movies, albums, all of that. 100 million Spotify monthly subscribers already. What's interesting to me, though, John, is that the NFL, I would have imagined once upon a time, was maybe above genuflecting because they are the monoculture.
Well, you could make the argument they're least in need of this boost. So classic, as is classic always, the people who need the help the least get the most.
The American way.
It's the
There it
American
is.
way.
Took 3 minutes for John's political views to come out.
For old socialist John Skipper.
Amazing.
But having said that, it doesn't exasperate me at all. It seems the natural of order things. Perhaps they're actually romantically entangled, and that's a lovely thing. I could use that as the thing I love at the end of this of today's
A
broadcast.
socialist and a romantic.
A socialist. By the way, aren't those the same thing? By the way, a socialist
Only in
and
your
a
mind.
Yeah.
Truly. That's what Das Kapital was about, actually. Yeah.
How culpable is the NFL in attempting, or all of us, this is what I was thinking about this. We're all trying to be viral. We're all trying to have a shooting star. Deion Sanders was a shooting star. Took advantage of it, lost a game, and now I haven't read one thing about Deion Sanders recently, so now it's Taylor Swift. I think she has more staying power, and so will this relationship of convenience have to last? Does it last through the season? Do they do it only to week 8, to the bye week? Because at what point does NFL get every dime out of this that they possibly can? Because you can't keep at this frenetic pace during the course of a full season.
Well, I'm not sure. I suspect that every game she attends, they will have the Taylor Swift cam, and we'll get to see her about every other minute and what she's doing. And if that's entertainment, I think it really speaks to the fact that these games are more and more entertainment, right? I mean, if you go to an NBA game now, it is music and dancing and contests and shooting T-shirts into the crowd. So there's the feeling that you always need to entertain people. And one way you can entertain them is Taylor Swift showed up. And you can't afford to go to a concert, but you can watch her on
But
television.
that's two different things. The in-game entertainment is for the people who buy tickets. Everyone who goes to the Chiefs-Jets game, how many people had access to seeing Taylor Swift? And so I viewed this as a TV play more than an in-stadium
No
play.
question. Though I'm sure they showed her on the big board, and I'm sure that made people feel they were at a special place. It's good for everybody. It doesn't bother me. I don't think it takes away from watching a football game. By the way, you got plenty of time. They're playing every 5 seconds, every 40 seconds. You have 35 seconds. You can show the huddle.
Yeah.
You can show the third or fourth replay, or you can show Taylor Swift. Show Taylor Swift. It's great.
Right. There's that Wall Street Journal article that summarized the total amount of actual action in an NFL game. Now one could reasonably wonder, are we seeing more Taylor Swift than actual action on a field? But beyond the crackling energy of, oh my God, this VIP is the VIP of VIPs is here tonight. I want to watch this / be there to take advantage of my ability to, I don't know, post an Instagram story myself about this. There's the question of who they want posting those Instagram stories, right? This is not just a raw tonnage play. This is a demographic play, is it not?
No one's talking about that. And it's something that I'm comfortable to answer, but it's an uncomfortable answer. Taylor Swift brings a demographic. She is what I would call, and not racially, but vanilla. There's no controversy around Taylor Swift. She doesn't have, it's not Kim Kardashian. There's no worry about relationships, about arrests.
You can literally take her home to mom.
Which is exactly why Kelsey's mom's involved. Kelsey's involved. It is a perfect person for the NFL to go after the last frontier for them, which is increasing the demographic of women. And it's been proven to happen these last 2 times she's been to a game. More women are watching. More women are engaging with football. And if I'm Roger Goodell, I am smiling because I want that demographic because, A, it distracts from some of the negative stuff that goes on with the NFL, domestic violence, some of the CTE issues. Hey, we're Taylor Swift. We're about dancing and pop or whatever she is.
There's almost nothing negative at associating yourself right now with Taylor Swift. And that's what they're doing. Smart. I don't think it bothers anybody. I think, in fact, most people probably think it's kind of amusing and fun. I'm sure there are a few curmudgeons who would not like to see Taylor Swift 30 times a game.
We just heard from one, in fact.
But they're monetizing it. So I'm all in. I'm a curmudgeon that I don't want to see her 30 times a game. But I love that the NFL is getting this demographic and then monetizing it. Because my view of women, and as NFL fans, you need them. Because they're in charge of whether or not their kids play football as kids. They're in charge of whether they're a pain and they don't want their husbands to watch NFL games or engage or go to NFL games. It was always my dream running a team to have women go to baseball games and watch baseball games because it's one fewer argument that men have to not engage with my product.
Yeah. You also, I'll give you a number, 273 million Instagram followers. So increasingly in sports, what we hear about is how many followers people have. This is marketing. She has 273 million people. She puts it on her Instagram. All those people see she was in an NFL game. It's spectacular free marketing for the NFL.
Has she done that? Do we know for sure? I don't follow her, so I'm one of the few people in the world who do not. Has she been posting like her a selfie?
Not in the way that the NFL has been, where the NFL is changing its bio on social media to talk about how they too are Swifties, basically, infuriating every sports fan that sees, if you're a Jet fan, for instance, who sees these games not as, I don't know, the red carpet at the Emmys or the Academy Awards, but an actual game that they care about. But I want to get to the cynicism behind the scenes of all of this, David, because the idea of Taylor Swift being Roger Goodell's manna from heaven, right? Even absent the whole idea of him atoning for, like, the Ray Rice scandal on some level, right? Tell me about what it's like when a player of yours starts dating a celebrity.
Oh, we love that. We play that up. We'll find out when players are doing it because we get the pass list. So what players have to do to get tickets is they go to the traveling secretary. The traveling secretary has a block of tickets. They used to be paper tickets.
I just think of Costanza. I'm sorry.
He's the assistant to the traveling secretary. This is the actual traveling secretary. This is Costanza's boss's boss. And there are different sections in the ballpark. There's a family section. Then there's a girlfriend section. And so what the traveling secretary has to get from the player is, where do you want this person? Because sometimes you don't want them in the family section. But then we get involved because we look at the list and say, you're bringing Alyssa Milano. All right, we want her not in the family section or the girlfriend section. We're going to put her right within camera of the center field camera. Or we're going to put her in the owner's seats. Then, if we find out that the player has moved on, we encourage other players to date the same person so there can be continuity of celebrity, which we accomplished. It's like matchmaker, make me a match. We love it because we want to be able to keep the gig going. Anything that's celebrity, we want to attach ourselves to because it makes us cool. And I feel that's what Roger Goodell is doing here.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I don't think this happened as some master plan in the NFL office. I assume that Travis Kelce is actually going out with her.
Oh, you romantic.
And she's coming to the
You
game.
old romantic.
I don't assume that.
You think there's a contract somewhere between Travis and Taylor? Help me out here with my Instagram followers. And Roger Goodell is.
Has there ever been a couple in your mind where there's been a contract where the result of that couple is monetization and it's not love?
In my personal life,
well, how about that you've experienced?
It's all about love.
Okay.
It's all about love.
I hear you, but
Same for the record.
do you really need to do that? Okay, I'll say it. All of Tom Cruise's relationships, and don't stop smiling, but you understand why studios do that.
Yes.
Tom Cruise goes from relationship to relationship.
No, I feel you completely. No,
this
look,
is a real thing that happens.
The idea that love can come in 4 quadrants is the most American ideal as well, right? Like, hey, it's not merely that we're selling the story, it's that we, as David has now celebrated repeatedly, we're now monetizing this for ourselves. Which, again, to the extent that this is real, it seems undeniable, at least, that the incentives are real and algorithmic.
Everything is algorithmic. Everything. If you don't sit in your
I'm
boardroom,
assuming.
you know,
I'm just
I
assuming.
gathered you here today.
I just
to
assume
celebrate.
that this is all happening in the Matrix, and that for some reason somebody has decided they should be together in some
I love
other
that you
universe.
found God, John. I really do, because to me, when you were running ESPN, you have to be thinking this way. And now you get to Meadowlark, and you're this. Oh, I love everybody, and I think they really do care about each other.
When I was at ESPN, I was discouraging coupling. Just to be fair, I was discouraging coupling in the workplace environment.
I do love David.
Duly
though.
noted.
David, what David is saying though, which is so funny to me and should have been a Seinfeld like arc, is the idea of you guys encouraging, like, truly, like saying, hey, doesn't she look nice?
So we would let the players know which celebrities were coming to which game, and then the players would. I don't want to say they would sign up because that sounds horrible, but there were certain players who would want to meet certain celebrities who were coming, and we would foment that meeting because it would be in our best interest to have a love connection.
I don't know the verb foment.
I was going to say, he's a fomenter.
He's a fomenter. It's a classic fomenter.
He's like Moses Malone, foe, and foe. He's fomenting, and fomenting.
I wear that, and I'm not ashamed of that, and yeah, okay.
Well, that provides us, the faux provides us an easy segue back to the NBA, where another related story is afoot. Because the Charlotte Hornets are partnering with another one of these, truly influencers. Let's just call them what they are. Influencers meaning people who can move markets, influence markets, it seems. And that influencer in question is Mr. Beast. And I don't want to do the thing where we all feel very old because already we're doing that.
Don't do it.
But all you got to know, John, what?
I used to think of a market influencer as Carl Icahn.
Great. I feel our audience growing right now.
Not Mr. Beast. I think he's influencing social culture, right? And lending the influence he has somehow to marketing and monetization.
You can make fun of the monetization part of it, but you're talking about a person who has 180 plus million subscribers on his main YouTube channel. This is no joke.
No. Once again, that was my point before. Right now, I think followers is going to replace ratings as the currency for success in sports. By the way, what are they talking about with Messi? All you ever hear is how many followers the MLS now has. I've never quite understood. There's not a direct relationship between the number of followers and how much money you make, but it's not.
There is actually. Because
well, there is if you're the
person.
If you're the fomenter.
Yes.
And you can
get paid
monetize that fomentization.
That's Kardashian.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. They get paid for posting.
But this brings us to what the Charlotte Hornets are doing as not Mr. Beast, not Jimmy Donaldson, a North Carolina native who has, 300 million plus subscribers, followers across all of his channels. The question is what the Hornets want out of this, and also what Mr. Beast is using the Hornets for, right? Like, so the jersey sponsorship, in which, again, it's the patch on your jersey. It'll have a Mr. Beast
I think
logo.
he's doing Feastables, one of his companies, which I think is a chocolate company.
Of course.
And we don't know what kind of chocolates, but let's assume Is it mushroom chocolates or edibles, or is it just actual
I wish.
Hershey's?
It only feels that way when I read about how many followers.
I kind of doubt that would be on the jersey.
The price is right, baby.
Yeah. So he's making comestibles.
So what happens is the Charlotte Hornets go out and have a price. They have a rate card. And the NBA gave each team the right to sell their own jersey sponsors. Right. It's not national. It's not collective. Each team goes out to do it. Charlotte, in a brilliant move, said, we have a local person here who is huge. Let's see if he would ever want to consider this. And they approach him, and let's say they go to Pepsi, and they have a deal where they can say to Pepsi, we can give you $5 million of worth by being our jersey sponsor. You're going to move X cases of Pepsi, and we'll give you Y commercials. We'll give you seats for your clients. You'll get a suite. You get all these things. And you have to prove that it works, that deal works. For Mr. Beast, I think the conversation's totally different, which is, Mr. Beast, you want access? You've got all the followers in the world, but no one knows. Now you can hang out. You can be in the room where it happens. You can be cool. And maybe it'll drive some business to Feastables. Maybe not. But you're better at driving people to your brand than we ever could be. And it's a marriage made in heaven.
Mutually beneficial incentives.
It's brilliant. It opens up a whole new revenue stream for other teams now to search out these type of influencers who are able to not get paid, but to pay. Because most influencers get paid to influence. Right. This influencer is so big that he's now paying. That's a totally different model.
But for the Hornets, it's simply a transaction. Now, it may be a transaction with some additional advantages, and perhaps he agreed to promote it to his 300 million people in lieu of paying the most money. Maybe not. If you're Charlotte, and when you say there's a rate card, but it's not like only one person can buy this. So they'll sell it to whoever will pay them the most money or provide them the most value. So are you suggesting that maybe part of the value Mr. Beast is paying is he's got 300 million followers, and Charlotte can not only get the cash, they can get some free marketing?
If I'm Mr. Beast, I'm not paying market for that jersey sponsorship.
Okay.
So here's the context, right? So Mr. Beast is replacing the very sexy Lending Tree, the online loan marketplace, the patch sponsor since 2017, right? So the net of this is that, okay, again, access to the demo, right? Like young people, that is Mr. Beast's whole bag, is young people follow him around like a messianic figure.
And that's a big bag.
But the question is, what is the actual upside for not just Mr. Beast, but any company when it comes to, I'm now on the patch. Like, what does that actually translate into in terms of real world returns?
So what did I say as president of a team, or what do I actually think? I'm happy to answer it both ways.
I would like the lie and then the truth.
So the lie is that when you're associated with our brand as a jersey sponsor or as an outfield wall sign or as the naming rights to our ballpark, here's what you get. You're on the news X times. You're on ESPN X times. You have this number of impressions around the world. In each of the cities where you do business, we can measure you do business in 10 cities where the Marlins play, and you are going to get exposure in those 10 cities. Then we're going to give you seats, and we're going to give you on-field first pitches, which are valued at $20,000 a pop, and we're going to give you giveaways where we give 18,000 bobbleheads, yada, yada, yada. Horse crap. But that's how we sell. That's the lie. The truth, I wouldn't spend one penny of Meadowlark's money to have the naming rights of anything, because I have never been convinced by anybody that it actually drives one person. And the theory is, the way the marketing people sell it, is they say, hey, more people are going to drink Pepsi than Coke because we're associated with the Hornets. More people are going to
brand awareness.
Go to Lending Tree when they need a loan because they're associated with the Hornets. I have yet to meet a consumer who made a consumption decision based on a team sponsorship. But maybe I'm wrong.
I've always felt there's a high correlation between the personal interest of the CEO or the CMO and sponsorships, right? David laid it out. It has a lot to do with, I get to go to the game. Now you can figure out how to justify it. I'm going to take my bottlers. I'm Pepsi. I'm going to take my bottlers to the game. That's good. And by the way, I don't think anybody makes these decisions just completely flippantly. But if you want to do it, you can figure out some reason to do it. I've always suggested that golf sponsorships were among the most lucrative and the easiest to sell because you probably have a higher proportion of CEOs and CMOs who play golf than who play rugby. So the rugby sponsorships are harder. By the way, not to mention the audience is different. There is always some justification, but I'm agreeing with David that overwhelmingly some element of sort of ego. I get to be at the stadium. I get to go.
Well, that's it. Like, this is the through line so far, right? Is that it's cool to be at these games. Like, as much as Taylor Swift is being used by the NFL, the idea that this is a place of great prestige and exclusivity, to me, the most exclusive, coolest seat in all of entertainment, including theater and sports and everything else, is courtside at an NBA game. There's nothing quite like it. And now Mr. Beast gets to be a de facto owner-adjacent figure.
Yeah. Do you remember, did you ever sit in the courtside seats that we had at the Heat?
No.
Can I, off the subject, give a 2-minute story about why it's cool to sit courtside?
Please.
So in the transaction...
Yeah, it's okay. We'll just edit it out, but go
ahead.
No, go ahead. No, of course you can. Go ahead.
I'm good.
No. No, I want to hear it.
So that was the story.
Yeah.
No, so courtside seats. Why it's cool? Because when you can do business on your courtside seats, you call up a client and you want to close a deal, you sit courtside at NBA. We batted 1,000 bringing clients to those seats, and it was a crucial part of the transaction. John Henry wanted to keep the courtside seats, and we insisted they were not excluded assets in the asset purchase agreement to get the Marlins. We insisted that the courtside seats were included. The Heat wanted them back because they could sell them for more, and John Henry had a contract at a certain price. We assumed that contract as part of the deal, and then we used it for sales. And it paid for itself 20 times over, because when you bring someone 5 feet, 2 feet
Nothing
from
like
LeBron
it.
James, it's done. It's done. And so the access, critical. And I think you're going to see Mr. Beast, and I couldn't pick him out of a lineup right now, so I don't know what he looks like. He'll be courtside at the Hornets games.
Yeah, he does not look like Carl Icahn, for the record.
It's among the other things the Charlotte Hornets did, they probably have a sticker on their uniforms now that is cooler. Right? It's not a bad thing. The NBA leans into
Lending
its
tree
audience.
I don't know. I
Mr.
love
Beast.
a good
Lending
mortgage
tree.
lender. But speaking of people in need of financial relief, we get to the question of what the is happening in the regional sports broadcasting world. Because the latest, and this has been an ongoing saga we've been chronicling here on the Sporting Class, but the latest is that Diamond Sports Group is in the middle of Chapter 11, and they are bleeding out, and so too is the larger enterprise here, right? And so the NBA deal, let's keep it in that league. The NBA deal, John, which you often are the architect of these deals that we talk about. For the ESPN side of things, and the NBA timing of all of these national deals, up in 2 years, right? So there's 2 years left on that one. And so in the meantime, the local sports rights in these regional networks, there's something of a crossroads of like what happens there with the national deal on the way out. And your sense of it is what?
Look, I've always believed that the NBA is the other league with the NFL that has a chance to make all of their games national, right? And I think their ambition is to be a national sport. Baseball and hockey remain about 50% of the audience for hockey games and baseball games, tell me if you saw different numbers, are the local teams.
If not more.
Football is the lowest, right? They have a national audience. Everybody in the country will tune in to see Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. And some of that's true in all other sports, right? They'd tune in to see Gretzky and the Kings. They'd tune in to see Judge and the Yankees. But for the most part, they're more local sports. And the question here is, the regional sports network business is going to decline dramatically, if not die. Doesn't mean it's going to be the same for every league. And I believe for the NBA, they could be lining up that over time they are going to take their regional games, put them in a package. Now, my friend David explains to me what the biggest problem for that is, and that is the big market teams would rather not do that. But you're clearly going to have a situation where the small, it's not small market teams. You actually should go the other way. There's maybe half a dozen teams that are going to want to keep their local rights because they can make a lot more money. For the rest of them, they would make more money by putting all of these in a pile, selling them nationally, and splitting the money evenly. So the question is where that fight will go, because clearly Memphis and Oklahoma City and even some big teams. I'm assuming the
Milwaukee.
Houston Astros in Major League Baseball would like to put all the games in a hat, sell all the Yankee games with the Astros games, and they'll take
They
a
just
equal
bought
share.
they just bought their RSN, which was very interesting.
Wait, so explain that because
I wanted to go back.
Yeah.
I want to get to that, but I need to respond because I don't agree with one thing. The reason why we're talking about this today is there was news this week. The news is when you declare Chapter 11, when you file Chapter 11, that's really reorganization. You're going to a court and saying, what we're doing now didn't work, we're going to do it differently, and we're not going to be bankrupt anymore. There's a deadline. You have to file a plan, and Diamond was not going to get it done by the deadline of September 30th, coincidentally, before the NBA and NHL contracts start to get paid. They went to the court and said, we need more time. We don't have a way to reorganize. Adam Silver came out against basically what you're proposing. He's willing to take a haircut in order to save the regional deals.
I just think
He's willing
it's
to take less money.
I think it's just practical. National deals are not up, so he can't package in regional games. The regional games end in different times.
But start the process, John. MLB started the process. They took over the Padres and Diamondbacks, even though there's plenty of teams that have many years left on their deals. Why not, if you're Adam, do it yourself the way MLB did?
I am assuming that Adam is making the calculation that the haircut he takes for giving Diamond a break is less than the haircut he takes for the local teams trying to figure out how to monetize these, or his ability to produce the games and monetize them. Baseball made a different decision.
No, currently, baseball agreed that the teams are making less revenue, but they control it. So what Adam's doing, he has a chance to get control, and he's not taking it, which means he must not want it.
Well, I don't think he's extending the deals. He is saying in this year of the deal, I don't need to take control because I'm not going to make more money than I will if Diamond pays me 65% or 40%. And I don't know what you think. You and I have kind of agreed that if you could replicate on a local revenue, you would not do more than 25 to 25%, give or take, of the revenue you were getting before for your RSN.
That's what we agreed to.
Yeah.
But I would also tell you that part of a reorg plan, they can't keep going to the court and saying, okay, we're doing this 1 year at a time. When they reorganize, it has to be a solution for the creditors of Diamond.
Yeah, but it's only a solution for the term of the current contract.
Right.
And I don't think they're giving him extension. By the way, I love that they can't figure out how to reorganize in the time allotted,
right?
Because there is no solution.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
the answer.
So clearly the outlook is bleak. That is not in question.
Past bleak.
What is in question is what the NBA as a business's incentives are when it comes to, do we need a distribution system in which regionally, locally, there is diversity in terms of their profits, so that the Knicks can benefit more than the Thunder? Or do they want the national deal in which everything is more socialist, where everything is distributed evenly? Yeah.
You're going to tell me that you want national for all games and just eliminate any sort of difference in local revenue?
No, I was not doing it to eliminate any difference in local revenue. I was doing it to be a national game, right? Because I believe that the fact that fans all over the country can get all of the games is an advantage. I think in this day and age, to take a bunch of games and make them only available to the markets that they're playing in is anachronistic.
But we're seeing now that teams are doing it. The Utah Jazz just did their streaming service. In NHL, Vegas Golden Knights started their streaming service.
To explain that, what that means is that now they, too, are functioning like influencers, in which you sell an OnlyFans subscription, a Patreon sub, in the same way that you can subscribe to the Utah Jazz and get their games direct to consumer.
Which is amazing because it's not just for people in Utah, but it is people in Utah as well. But by being in charge,
you can buy it anywhere.
You can buy it anywhere.
Yeah, but if you take a long view from the commissioner's office, it's a different view than the view in your suite in Salt Lake City, right? If I was going to grow the Salt Lake City national appeal. I don't think it's going to happen by selling subscriptions one at a time to people who are already fans. The question is, once you get somebody that comes onto your team, it all is in a national subscription, so the whole league benefits. The question is, to your point, if you're right, can you convince, and you can't, convince the Yankees that they ought to share all that revenue?
They won't.
Because they won't. Well, at some point, how many teams have to decide?
23-7. You need 8 to block. Everything in baseball is about getting 8 to block.
Okay, and right now, I'm sorry.
I'm just laughing, soaking like the idea of someone who knows how to filibuster. He's like, yep, I was in that block.
That's what you do. That's what you try to avoid. You do this in your company when you're dealing with talent as well.
Yes.
You try to have people not knowing all the information because they can then form a block and they can impact your P&L.
Yeah. But now, if you're back in baseball and you're the Marlins, do you want to share all the local revenue, or you want?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so that's one. You got 22 more to go.
Right. I've done this.
I can do the math better the other way. The Yankees don't want to do it. The Dodgers?
Going.
Yep,
Nope.
let's do this. I want to know. Yeah.
The Cubs?
No, correct.
Braves?
Keep going. You're missing the one
Mets?
north of here.
Boston?
Yep. We're ready at 6. And you're not yet at
Philly?
the politics of it. You're at 7, but you're not at the politics
I'm
of
not sure
people
Philadelphia's
who don't want. So the politics are the people where the owners of the teams, even if it's in their best interest, act in a certain way so as not to be too accommodating to smaller markets. So don't forget that it's not just the markets. You have to look at personalities.
By the way, does it have to be the case that it is shared equally simply because the league sells it? Couldn't the league say, oh, yes, we're going to take them all, we're going to sell them, but we're going to pay you proportional to how many of the subscriptions are purchased by your fans?
My question as
so
well.
let me tell you how that worked. So let's say a league does a deal, a national deal with StubHub. Is the perfect example because this is a true story. StubHub did a deal to become the national ticket reseller for Major League Baseball. And they paid baseball an amount of money that got split 30 ways. What baseball neglected to tell us prior to voting is that part of that deal was a sponsorship component where StubHub had to sponsor teams for X millions of dollars, but they got to choose. So we'd call up StubHub and say, hey, do you want to sponsor the Marlins? And they said, great. How about 25 grand? The Yankees called StubHub and say, hey, do you want to sponsor us? And they say, great, here's $10 million. That did not make people happy on the Marlins side. And the Yankees, that's how they were able to put revenue into a national pot, but still have more money coming their way.
That's clever.
But theoretically, you could do this, assuming you can get agreement, you could do it anyway. You could do it with, you're going to get a proportional, we do it proportional to viewing. We're going to sell a national subscription, we're going to take the money, and we're going to split it up based on
That's just local revenue now. The Yankees have a bigger TV deal than the Marlins, so the Yankees get more money. I'm not sure what the difference is. What you're talking about is pure socialism, Major League Soccer, Messi. Where it's split.
Well, I don't think they think of themselves as socialist at Major League Soccer. They simply have a financial model.
League of the People?
League of the People. By the way, a lot of people thought soccer was communist.
That's right.
When we started putting it on, you're putting on that European
socialist
socialist
liked soccer
sport.
back then.
I love soccer.
Yeah, quite obviously.
Right. It's all about the collective.
That's right. That's right.
ESPN made a bet on soccer. Talk about CEOs doing things they like, by the way.
You know, in soccer, they refer to themselves not as teammates, but as comrades.
I can't tell if that's a joke or not.
Neither can I, and I don't want to respond in case it's not.
Last question on this. I just want to sort of put a button on it by asking about, okay, like Bally's, South Florida, right? Inside of that, it's Major League Baseball, it's the NHL, it's the NBA. I assume those leagues have different interests, right? But like, do the Marlins want the Heat to leave that arrangement, for instance? Like, is there any pressure going in that direction when it comes to just propping these things up like it's Weekend at Bernie's at this point?
When we were negotiating a TV deal with Fox, we'd go to LA, and they would say that every dollar we give the Heat is a dollar we don't give to you. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get an extension done, you better get ahead of the Heat and the Rays because they own both. That's all part of Florida. And that was their way of trying to get leverage. Mm-hmm. So for them, it's a pot of money because it's based on subscribers. It's not based on ratings. It's not based on wins and losses. That's such a bunch of poppycock where you say, oh, the ratings are up 40% because your team played well. Can we get a raise in our rights fees? Have you ever given a raise because a team did better? I have not seen that before.
No, we never did. We also never had any league that was prepared to get less money if the ratings went down, right? That's just
right.
You just accept that you're paying a certain amount of money, you're valuing it, and no, it doesn't go up and down.
You based it on subscription revenue for the most part. When I negotiated the TV deal, Fox would tell me subscription revenue drives 80 to 90% of our ability to pay. Ratings, whatever, advertising revenue, it's there, but don't make yourself crazy if you have a $20 million payroll or a $200 million payroll. It's not really going to help you get more money. Your DMA is your DMA.
Yeah, of course.
That's a major thing.
Yeah, I used to find with rights holders that they all believe they could come in and say, our ratings are higher than this league, so we should get more money. And it's like, it's immaterial. We're not making our money. We're getting paid by the distributors. They don't pay us for ratings. They pay us for the indispensability of our channel and whether or not people will leave their service if they don't have the channel. That's what they pay for.
People are listening to that statement because all we talk about, and it's tweeted after every game, let's wait to see what the ratings were.
Yep.
Let's see how many people watch the World Series or this football game or the Grammys or the Tonys or the Oscars. They're down. They've lost viewers. No, the people who actually pay don't actually care.
Well, that's what makes it the greatest business in the history of media, as we repeatedly say on this show.
And I love that when you get the press release, baseball is an offender here. You never see numbers. You see percentage increases. So here I've got that the top 5 in RSN growth for the AL East champion Orioles, up 65%. Well, from what?
Do you know that if your rating is a 1 and you get to a 2, which is still crap, you can say, we're up 100%.
Yeah.
We used to do that with season tickets. When we had a low season ticket base, we got to announce at our spring training press conference every year, season tickets are up 42%. Like, we're so cool. In fact, we were so bad that now we're just really bad instead of terrible. That's when you play the percentage game versus the number game. When you've got a sellout, you play the number game.
Yeah. The NFL usually announces numbers, not percentage increases. 27 million people watch Sunday Night Football.
Baseball is a percentage press release. So the people who put together the press releases are always told.
Oh, so is the NBA.
We are focusing on percentages because it all pales in comparison. Do you know how upsetting it is when your championship round, World Series or NBA championship, rates less than a regular season football game? Do you have any idea how badly that feels?
Probably less than a Colorado-Oregon game.
And potentially less.
Back then, not now, but yes.
So at Dan's show, they have a piece of paper up now that says the number of days since we mentioned Deion Sanders, and so far it's been at 0 every day. With this show, we should put a piece of paper up, regional sports networks. How many shows have we done that without mentioning regional sports networks? And it's 0 because this is a big story. It's a big deal.
Is there a bigger story in sports business today than what's going on with TV and streaming?
Particularly since this is a bit. People are wondering if this is a canary in the coal mine, right?
That's it. Well, it's the reason why.
I don't know that expression. What does that mean?
It's a forebearer of things to come.
They used to put canaries in coal mines to find out if there was like toxic gas in there, so the canary would die before the people died.
That's very nice.
Yeah, unless you're a canary.
So, but that's what they're wanting to know, if the regional sports networks dying is a step on the way to decreasing sports rights.
Is this?
And the answer is no.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Wait, that's a firm no, because
that's a very quick, firm no.
I'll tell you.
I'm just fomenting trouble.
But truly, the lens I hear all of these conversations through is through the one of like, so is this the apocalypse now? Is this when like the market, the prices of salaries, of everything, team valuations, all of this rests atop this intricate, again, choose your metaphor here, this intricate ball of stuff. And we're watching that ball hollow out week after week of this show.
And what I love is the leagues that are tied, their salary caps are tied to industry revenue. And I'm waiting not for the value of your team, but for industry revenue, which I can argue may be peaking, except it never does because you can increase ticket prices, et cetera. But if it goes down, players are going to suffer. And it hasn't happened yet because payrolls keep going up and the players are getting paid so much money. The NBA is an example where they pay crappy players $50 million a year now.
By the way, this is why some players have not signed their extensions yet, right?
Because if the salary cap goes up, then they get a bigger percentage of it because it affects all of the maximums that you can get. So, Giannis
exactly, but
was clear.
Yes, and so the question is, when does the arrow point the other way?
And you're going to say never, right?
Well, never means in the foreseeable future, right? I'm not. Could it go down at some point? Maybe, but is it going to go down in the next round of deals? Probably not.
So that means your canary's alive in your theory?
At this point, the canary, to me, the canary has come out flying sort of shakily.
We're going to want to clip that video.
Not feeling good, but it's alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. My concern would be that it's got long-term damage.
But wait, just to be clear, though, because, John, you said something, I think, with the confidence that we would all get it, but the idea is the length of time you have left as this canary is the length of the next deal that is signed.
Yes.
And you always want to go
long.
I always wanted to go long. Now, that may or may not be the right strategy anymore.
That's
it was
my question.
Interesting because in the last NFL deals, they decided to go very long. Mm-hmm. And they traditionally did not want to go long because they knew the more bites you got at an increase, you were going to be better off, right? It's just like compound interest, I think.
If the arrow's pointing up, yep.
You keep going. And we always thought, because every commissioner, every AD looks at, what's the average annual? Did it go up? And by the way, if you do a longer deal, it goes up more, they're heroes.
The notional goes up more if you go longer. That's what we wanted to get to. We wanted to get to $1 billion, and you can get to $1 billion. You just have to go longer, more years, and then you get to announce you got $1 billion.
The first $1 billion deal that ESPN did was we went 10 years with the Big Ten, and 10 times 100 was $1 billion, and
still is.
It mattered. Right, it mattered to the commissioner at the time. It was Jim Delaney. He was the first. Mm-hmm. And by the way, they
got to announce that.
Yeah,
that's
and by the way,
thing.
And it is a big thing. I mean, right? If you're building your brand and you want to be in a position relative to your competitors, and in college conferences, the other conferences are your competitors. You get to announce you have the largest deal.
I love how press releases mean everything and nothing. That's what I've learned today, incidentally.
Listen to Nothing Personal, and that is we spend a lot of time talking about press releases. The amount of time that people who are good at media spend writing press releases, the way they do it, the way they do their statements, you're supposed to take care in your words. And if you have someone analyzing them, you can poke a hole in it, as we've talked about today. But I need to think about what you said about these deals and NFL and leagues going long or short. If a league wants to go long, the broadcast network should not want to go long because the league is acting in its best interest, not in yours.
Yes, and the broadcast networks going long puts them at risk that in years 8, 9, 10, suddenly pay TV will have declined enough that they are losing revenue and the deals will become less profitable.
That's the bankruptcy. We're now back to the bankruptcy of regional sports networks. The deals went long, the $1 billion deals, and all of a sudden the rules changed, and the regional sports networks are left holding the bag, and why we're seeing a reshuffling. And you're saying the canary comes out fine, and I'm saying based on the evidence.
Well, if your whole business was regional sports networks, the canary's dead.
So it's not dead yet. Isn't it just flailing the way you said? Because Adam Silver won't let it die.
Well, actually, when I was flailing around about sports rights, and that sports rights aren't quite dead yet, and dead and aren't quite ready to start going down. The regional sports networks, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that they don't work anymore, right? Because as the distributors have to cut expenses in a declining universe, and when they still have to, as Spectrum did with ESPN, end up paying the increases, they've got to go to places where the company does not have the leverage to get a new deal done. The regional Diamond has no leverage. They thought they had leverage because of their Sinclair's collection of television stations, but they don't have enough leverage with the retransmission consent. Now I'm off into stuff that
Can I say that one of the issues with Diamond, however, was their amount of actual leverage when they purchased the networks. I can't remember who they bought them from.
They bought them from Fox.
Remind me, and where did Fox get him? I was just trying to remember. I can't.
Oh, I see.
Well,
you doing
no.
it.
Fox Fox was the longtime leader in regional sports
you were
networks.
not involved.
The Walt Disney Company bought some of the Fox assets. The Justice Department, I believe, ruled that ESPN could not own the regional sports networks because they would have too much leverage.
That pesky Justice Department.
Where's the flailing canary now, Mr. Socialist? So, what interests me here is that I'm distracted by thinking of you flailing.
I'm just trying to imagine. So there's a regional canary, there's a national canary, and then there's, of course, Meadowlark, the healthiest bird of them all.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, there's Canary Islands.
Well, you purposely chose the Meadowlark logo. I think you and Dan spent time coming up with that. When I assume, right, the Meadowlark bird,
Yeah.
Meadowlark lemon. Mm-hmm. Can we go back to regional sports networks and talk about the leverage that they had and why Diamond's bankrupt?
Yes.
Because you're saying the regional sports is dead. The Canary's dead. Did you say that before?
The standalone.
I have it on tape. Did you say it or not? The regional sports.
The regional
network,
sport
Canary's
networks.
dead.
Yes.
Do you not put any credence into the fact that Diamond had to go Chapter 11 because they had to assume so much leverage? They borrowed so much money to buy all these networks that they could not pay the debt service.
Yes.
And a company that was less leveraged, maybe the Canary is alive? Or do you think leverage was not an issue?
Well, I think we're talking about two different kinds of leverage,
We are.
right? You were talking about
Having leverage
financial
in negotiation versus debt. That
right.
amount, like a leverage buyout.
Yeah. I was talking about the leverage of walking in to see DirecTV and saying, you have to pay me an increase because if you take my channels off the air, your business will suffer. Mm-hmm. Because of the small audiences that these regional sports networks get. Now, they're fine audiences as a standalone, right? And they always brag that, in fact, the regional sport networks are often the highest rated show of the night in San Diego.
Oh, sure.
And they are. But the problem is the regional sports network has a game on Thursday. So if they have 3 hours of live content, does pretty well. The other 21 hours does nothing.
Somebody disagrees with John because what was also announced this week, the Astros, as an example, they bought their network. They were on a network, and Warner Brothers Discovery, as a way to lower their leverage, their debt in their merger, they are selling off all these networks, and they're getting teams to buy them. Now, you can say what you want about owners, Jim Crane or any owners. When they're buying something, they see value. They see an opportunity. So I'm not willing to say that the Canary is out of the coal mine dead because there's still acquisitions happening in the regional landscape. The Astros are the latest example.
I'm not actually familiar with what they're paying, but yes, clearly if they're
Even if
paying...
it's zero, you know, like the way Portnoy did with Barstool and Penn Gaming, even if it's zero, you're assuming the current liabilities with the assumption that you'll get some sort of asset appreciation.
Yes, and I don't... Does anybody know what the Astros paid for the regional
Unannounced.
network?
But they, whatever.
Now, I would note that per our press release deciphering logic, that would be a suspicious detail.
Because
I'd like to see it. If maybe I could buy a regional sports network.
are you going out tonight?
I got $300 or $400 here. Think I could get a regional sports network?
Hold on, let me combine. What do you have, Pablo? Let's see if we can combine everything we have.
I believe
with
that-
Skipper. What is this worth?
No.
Yeah, I've got.
What do you have?
I have a literal dollar.
That's literally what you have? You don't really just have
I
a
have
dollar. do you?
$1.
I'm guessing you cannot get a regional sports
You do
network for that.
not.
I have.
You do not have $1 in your
Yeah,
wallet.
he does. I could see
Can
it.
we put that on a poll somewhere?
I believe that the amount of cash you hold is inversely correlated to your knowledge of who Mr. Beast is.
It may well be. It is a kind of
John.
an old school thing.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah,
Christ.
it's me and
So
David.
if you
Me and
wanted,
David. We
just
grew- we grew-
YouTube.com.
We all, David and I grew up in an era when you wanted to be able to reach in your pocket and pull out a little wad.
That's why I would work, was to get cash.
I just want everybody who's listening to this to know that you just watched two rich guys literally fan money in front of my face.
It was like $300. $300.
I think we should stop recording now.
Comrades, it has been a pleasure.
Das
Can I get
Capital.
security on the way out of the door?
All right. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.